It's part 9 of our interview series on the Little River Band, with interviews with Glenn Shorrock, Birtles, and Graeham Goble. In this clip, we talk about why they left the band. Why did Glenn leave? What led to Glenn leaving?
Well, he was pretty much asked to leave. I mean, I have to put my hand up there. I mean, it had gotten to a very non-communicating situation with Glenn when we were on Montserrat with George Martin doing. When we went to Montserrat to record Time Exposure with George Martin, all the songwriters, which included Glenn Beebe and myself and David Briggs, we presented our songs to George to listen, and then he came next day and said, "These are the 10 songs that I've chosen to record," and there were no songs of Glenn's in that list. And Glenn said, "I need to get some songs on this record, or I won't be doing the record," you see. And of course, interestingly, a song like Man on Your Mind, which became a big hit for us, was not on the list. And so thank God he did that, because that was a big hit for us. And so that was the sort of the lowest ebb at that point, because by the time when we were doing Time Exposure, I had experienced what it was like to have a very enthusiastic John Farnham singing my songs, and he was eager to be involved. He would listen to me, and I was artistically in another space, but then I still had to record the Time Exposure one. So basically what happened with the recording of Time Exposure, I think it was Beebe, myself and Wayne Nelson would work from 8 p.m. at night all night to breakfast in the morning, and then we would have breakfast with George Martin and Glenn and David and everyone together, and then they would record in the day without me, and we would sleep and then have dinner together, and then we would do the night thing. You see, so songs like The Night Owls, pretty much I was producing, and then so my songs I did at night with Wayne and Beebe and our recording engineer, Ern Rose.
"We want you to step aside and we've got John Farnham." And I went, "What?"
Who you knew, right?
"Oh, yeah, John and I are friends, just." But, you know, we still talk, and I have a great respect for him, his reasons for joining. He wanted to sing in front of American audiences. But that only lasted, what, four years, I think. And then they asked me back in again. And then the revolving door started to get on top of me as well.
Yeah, he wasn't that well known. He wasn't that well known in North America. I mean, in hindsight, we went back and we were curious, who is this guy? Because we started hearing things of who he was. But in Canada, I had not even heard his name.
No, but he's huge down here. You know, he's our Olympic singer, as we call it, as I call him. Mm-hmm. You know, he can sing higher and faster and louder than all of us. And he's great. He's a great performer, no doubt about it. But he's not me.
In retrospect, from one angle, Glenn is absolutely right, because he was very tired, he'd had enough, and so probably what we could have or should have done was be just close down and stop for a year or two and just take some time out and then come back. But you see, I had a vision that if I look at what Fleetwood Mac did, because there's this thing about, like, as it turned out, I've had a top 10, the other guy, the Night Owls, and like Reminiscing Lady, I've had 3 lead singers singing my top 10 hits in America that I've written. So I was always, well, Glenn's not the only voice that can have a hit for this band, because it's already happened with the other way. So I felt, well, I didn't want to stop. I was still writing songs, a lot of them, and I had a lot of songs written that Glenn's voice was not the best choice for. And so, but to be honest, I just, when it came to it, I met with Beebe and we talked about it.
I think the main thing for me was that John sings in a higher register to Glenn Shorrock. And so I had to revert to singing below John, taking the low harmony. But that's not where the strength of my voice was. Mm. And so it changed the sound of the harmonies quite a bit, I think. And that was one thing where it definitely changed. And for me, you know, I preferred Glenn in the band. I only stayed with the band about a year and a half after John joined, and then, you know, I quit as well. So for me, it was not a good experience.
The whole thing with Glenn had just gotten tired, and we still wanted to progress. We felt that we could get to where the Eagles were and where Fleetwood Mac were, and we felt at that time that Farnham would be the voice that would give us the chance to go where those bands were.
When you look back, are there things you would tell your younger self that knowing what you know now?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I've always been the sort of guy that I've just always followed my heart with whatever. Yeah. You know, it took me a long time to decide whether I should leave the band or not. And ultimately, you know, I did. Perhaps it could have been different had I hung in for a few more years after that. But I really felt at the time that I quit the band that the songs weren't quite as good as what they used to be. And the music was being driven into an area that I didn't agree with. Mm-hmm. They wanted to go a little bit more harder rock, whereas I thought we should have stayed with the more melodic stuff that we were known for, you know. But, you know, going back to your question, I don't think I would change much about my life, you know.
Well, it's the weird thing is it's we're getting into the science fiction part of the question. You would change anything, you might not be in that room right now. Who knows what could have happened, right?
Well, that's right. You know, I mean, I count myself very fortunate indeed to have landed in a band like Little River Band with the other three great songwriters. I've only been in 3 bands. My first band was very popular in Australia, and it was a teeny bopper band.
This is Zoot, right?
This is Zoot, yeah. And when Zoot broke up, you know, I drifted into Mississippi and got to work with Graeham and Derek Palici very closely for the Mississippi, not only the Mississippi years, but the Little River Band years. So it was a span of about 11 years that I worked with those guys. And I've said in many interviews that I consider my 3 years in Mississippi to be my true apprenticeship years, because touring with that band and recording, it really taught me to become a better guitar player and singer and songwriter, which are the 3 elements that I brought with me into Little River Band.
I was just on a different train, rightly or wrongly. I was thinking about myself. I was thinking about my songs, and I thought I can write for these voices, meaning Wayne and particularly John, that I could not have presented. I had no way of recording these songs if we had the classic lineup. It just wouldn't happen because I didn't have the personnel. So what happened there was that even though I enjoyed the recording of those 3 albums, being The Net, then Playing to Win, and then Be Left after The Net, then Playing to Win, and then No Rains, which is my favourite LRB album, I acknowledge that the public don't enjoy those as much. They want Glenn's in the band, or whether it's the songs, but that combination, the classic lineup, is what had the hits, and people liked that. I loved the Farnham years. I loved the songs that we wrote. I felt I was progressing as a writer, and I think that as I helped Farnham get to Whispering Jack from being a cabaret artist, 5 years in LRB playing the rock show, then he comes out with Whispering Jack. He couldn't have done that without LRB. Okay, couldn't have done it. But also, I couldn't have got to my solo recordings without the Farnham years. because with my singing and playing and writing that changed so much and I believe progressed in the Farnham years, that gave me a platform to then write things like my solo records, which I would never have done from the Shorrock lineup, you know, from say Time Exposure. I couldn't have gone from there to be doing a solo artist. I couldn't have done it. So it's all, you know, it's all stages. But because of course Beeb was right. He left the band under a heated argument that him and John had in 1983, where Beeb, what we found was John was doing what he does best, and what he does today is he's a solo act really, and he'd be on a 50-foot microphone lead, and all the spotlights are on John, and he's out the front, and we're just at the back in the dark playing our songs, and we felt like his backing band, if you like. And Beeb said, "This is not a band. We want a singer like Lou Gramm from Foreigner, who just stands there and just blows people away. We don't want somebody who's doing like a Vegas show. This is Beeb's feeling. We don't want to be a Vegas show act. And of course John, in his solo act, I mean, he spends half the night just talking to the audience. He's a very, very much, they love him, and he's awesome at that. So Beeb came to the conclusion that was enough for him, and he left. I tried very hard to make him stay because I loved him in the band, and he was such a contributor and so unique and so original. And he was right in that John did not fit in LRB the way Glenn fit. There was absolutely right. But at that time, Glenn couldn't sing the songs that I was writing that John could sing. So I was getting off on the challenge of singing those high harmonies with John and hearing those songs. So I didn't lose it, but I had a different vision, if you like, than what, say, Glenn may have had or Beeb had. That was my vision at that time. That was just the way it played out. And so I have equally now fond memories for the classic lineup as I do for the Farnham era. I love the Farnham era equally. And the fact that it didn't sell anywhere near, and in fact our least highest selling album, No Rains, I rate it with Sleeper Catcher and with First Under the Wire. Absolutely I do. That's just me.
Make sure you comment on our video, subscribe to our channel, and share our videos. I'm John Beaudin from Rocky Street Music. Take care of yourself.